Welcome to MA Crime Files. Today we take you to Pakistan, to the outskirts of Lahore, where a peaceful village named Sham Ki Bhatia became the epicenter of a chilling mystery. What seemed like an ordinary case would unravel into something far more sinister, one with a shocking twist that will leave you speechless. So, stay with us until the very end. It was a calm, uneventful evening on August 23, 2023. Until the tranquility of the village was shattered by a harrowing phone call. The local police station received a report of a lifeless body found on a deserted plot of land. The body, partially burnt and left with no identification, bore the signs of a deliberate attempt to erase the victim's identity. Who was this person, and what dark secrets surrounded their death? Inspector Sohail, a seasoned investigator, took charge of the case. The body, believed to be a man in his 20s, was sent for an autopsy, while crime unit officers captured images and videos, circulating them to nearby police stations, hoping for a lead. Little did they know that the mystery would take them 45 minutes away, to a family desperate for answers. Just a day before, on August 22nd, life had seemed normal for Rais, a young delivery worker. Living with his parents and older brother Ali, Rais followed his usual routine, working hard and returning home in the evening. But that night, an unusual call changed everything. His employer contacted him with an urgent delivery, promising extra payment for a late-night trip. The lure of extra money was tempting, and Rais assured his worried mother he'd be back in an hour. But hours passed, and Rais didn't return. His phone went silent. Calls to his friends turned up nothing. When even the faintest trace of him couldn't be found, his family filed a missing persons report. The next morning, Inspector Sohail received a call from a police station in Faisal town. They reported that the partially burnt body discovered in Sham Ki Bhatia bore a striking resemblance to the young man reported missing by Rais's family. There was no confirmation, but the timing and the circumstances were eerily similar. When the family was called to the hospital for identification, their worst fears were confirmed. Rais's mother's heart-wrenching cries filled the room as she recognized her son's body. Grief quickly turned to determination as the police launched an investigation into what had happened in the final hours of Rais's life. Using his phone records and location data, the police began piecing together a timeline, speaking to everyone Rais had interacted with in the days before his death. What they uncovered would shock everyone. The police zeroed in on one individual whose behavior had raised red flags early on. His name was Farhan. Sensing his discomfort, Sohail decided to apply more pressure. Finally, Farhan broke. His words left the room in silence. "I killed him to protect my honor, but it wasn't intentional. It was an accident." Farhan and his wife, Amna, seemed like an ordinary couple living a peaceful life. Married for 9 years, they had 3 children together and shared a home with Farhan's brother, his sister-in-law, and their father. The father occupied the ground floor, while the 2 brothers lived on separate upper levels. These seemingly mundane details would soon tie into a shocking narrative. Farhan was the sole breadwinner, working tirelessly to provide for his family, while Amna managed the household. Their lives were normal until 2 weeks ago, when a series of events began to unravel their stability. Amna often shopped online, a routine that introduced Rais into her life. Rais, a young delivery courier assigned to her area, had delivered packages to her house on several occasions. On one particular afternoon, Amna was expecting a delivery, a piece of Korean jewelry she had ordered. Rais arrived at Amna's doorstep. As Amna opened the gate to receive her package, Rais forced himself into the house, catching her completely off guard. Before she could scream or resist, she felt the cold blade of a knife pressed against her back. Her heart raced as Rais whispered threats. "If you resist, I'll call my friends in, and then all 3 of us will take turns with you." The implication of his words was chilling. Rais demanded that she take him somewhere secluded immediately. Amna knew she had to act fast. She tried to stay calm and gain control of the situation. "Listen," she said, her voice trembling. "I'll do what you want, but my father-in-law is home right now. Let me call you when he leaves." Rais tightened his grip on her hair and scoffed. "You think I'm a fool? Your father-in-law isn't home. He's gone to pick up your daughter from school. and I know exactly how long it takes for him to return." Amna's mind raced as she realized Reis had been watching her family closely, studying their routines. With no other options, she led him upstairs to her bedroom. That same morning, Farhan had entrusted Amna with 500,000 rupees and gold jewelry, asking her to secure them in the safe. Amna had been busy with household chores and had left them on the bedside table, planning to lock them away later. When Amna and Reis reached her room, Reis's eyes lit up as they fell on the cash and jewelry lying on the bedside table. Without hesitation, he lunged for them. Amna realized what he was doing and tried to stop him, but Reis slapped her hard. Shaking with anger and adrenaline, he stuffed the cash and jewelry into his pockets. Then his attention shifted back to Amna. Her trembling and tear-streaked face seemed to fuel his twisted satisfaction. A sinister smile crept across his lips as he grabbed her arm and pulled her close, running his hands over her despite her resistance. Every time she pushed him away or tried to scream, he slapped her again, asserting his dominance. Amna was paralyzed with fear, desperate for an escape. Outside the house, by sheer coincidence, Amna's father-in-law was walking home with her 8-year-old daughter. A neighbor happened to drive by and offered them a ride, which they accepted. This small twist of fate sped up their arrival home. When the little girl ran upstairs looking for her mother, she stopped dead in her tracks at the sight of Reis in the room with Amna. The man's presence terrified her. She recognized him as the same man who had been harassing her and her mother for weeks, even trying to touch her on one occasion. Without a word, she turned and bolted downstairs. Reis saw the girl flee and panicked. He quickly locked the door behind her, leaving Amna trapped. For a moment, Amna allowed herself a glimmer of hope, as she heard her father-in-law banging on the door and yelling. "Why is the door locked? Who's in there with you?" Reis grew frantic. The banging grew louder, and with each knock, his anxiety intensified. Unable to think clearly, he ran to the balcony and jumped to the street below, fleeing as fast as he could. In his rush, he dropped his phone. Amna's father-in-law had called Farhan 20 minutes later. When Farhan arrived, he was seething with rage. He believed Amna had willingly let Reis into their home. Amna tried to explain the truth, how Reis had been harassing her for months. She revealed how he would call her from different numbers, send her lewd texts and videos, and even professed his love for her during a video call. But she had been too scared to tell Farhan, fearing his temper. Farhan turned his attention to the phone Reis had left behind. What he found shocked him to his core. Videos of Reis and another man engaged in criminal acts, including threesomes with different girls. In some videos, there were underage girls and celebrations after robberies. If you are liking the video so far, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Let's get back to the video. For the next few days, everything was quiet. Farhan wanted to put the incident behind him and move on with his life. But one afternoon, Reis's phone, still in Farhan's possession, buzzed. Farhan hesitated before answering. It was Reis. Farhan, struggling to keep his emotions in check, told Reis that he knew everything about his harassment and demanded he leave Amna alone. But the conversation quickly turned heated. Reis laughed, mocking Farhan's threats, and then his tone turned menacing. He revealed shocking details about Farhan's family, where his 8-year-old daughter went to school, the time she came home, and even her daily routine. Farhan's blood ran cold. The call ended, but the weight of Reis's words hung in the air. 2 days later, Amna's phone, which Farhan now controlled, received a text. It was Reis. A light bulb went off in Farhan's mind. He decided to use the situation to his advantage. Posing as Amna, he began exchanging messages with Reis. The exact details of their back and forth are unknown, but Farhan's growing anger was clear. On the night of August 22nd, Farhan received a chilling message from Reis. "I know your husband goes out for a walk and smokes at this time. He won't be back for another 30 minutes. Come to the gate." Farhan, still pretending to be Amna, replied, "Okay." Reis didn't suspect a thing. When Reis pushed the gate open, he was met with Farhan, who lunged forward and grabbed him. In one hand, Farhan brandished a weapon, glaring at Rais with an intensity that froze him in place. Farhan peeked outside and noticed two of Rais's accomplices waiting on a motorcycle. One of them aimed a gun at Farhan, but fled when the weapon jammed. Farhan dragged Rais inside and tied him up, forcing him to record a confession. In the video, Rais admitted to trapping women, robbing them, and assaulting them. Farhan, consumed with rage, beat Rais with a bat, demanding the names of his accomplices. When Rais refused to talk, Farhan struck him again. On the third blow, Rais collapsed, his body convulsing briefly before going still. Farhan panicked. He shook Rais and slapped him, but it was too late. Rais was dead. Overwhelmed by fear and desperation, Farhan devised a plan. He wrapped Rais's body in a bedsheet, carried it to his car, and drove around for nearly an hour, searching for a secluded spot. He finally stopped at Sham Ki Bhatia, dragged the body out, and doused it with gasoline before setting it on fire. Once Farhan was arrested, he quickly confessed to the murder of Rais. His wife, Amna, was taken into custody for questioning, as the police worked to determine if she had played any role in the crime. Farhan's story remained solid and unchanging. He claimed full responsibility and insisted no one else was involved. Amna, however, wavered. At first, she claimed she had no knowledge of the murder until after it happened. She said Farhan woke her up, telling her they needed to leave, and she only realized what he had done when he stopped the car and dragged Rais's lifeless body. But later, her story shifted slightly. She claimed she hadn't gone with Farhan at all, only found out about the murder when the police came to the house. Now you must be wondering, where is the twist I mentioned earlier in the video? Brace yourselves. What you heard so far of the story is in fact not the complete picture. It's only what Farhan and Amna had told the police. But what you are about to hear will blow your mind. Let's go back a little. Remember when Rais was said to have forced his way into Amna's room wielding a knife? Well, that never really happened. Rais never forced himself into the house. He was invited. In fact, for the past 5 to 6 months, Rais and Amna had been having an affair. Phone records and testimonies from Rais's friends revealed they had gone on dates, shared lunches, and enjoyed coffee outings together. Farhan had no idea, but his father did. Farhan's father had long suspected something was going on. When his granddaughter came down running and told him that there's a man sitting with her mother, he immediately called Farhan on video saying, "I told you your wife is a cheating but you didn't believe me. Now she's inside with another man." Furious, he began banging on the door. And that robbery of 5 lakh and the gold set? It never happened. The explicit videos on Rais's phone? Well, no one could verify their existence. And the phone itself was never found. But one part of the story was true. Farhan did take Amna's phone, pose as her, and lure Rais to their house on the night of August 22nd. What followed was pure horror. Rais was subjected to extreme torture before he succumbed to his injuries. Setting fire on him almost left him unrecognizable. If it had been left undiscovered for few days, no one would have been able to identify him. Despite Farhan's confession, the police and Rais's family were convinced he didn't act alone. Suspicion fell on Farhan's father and brother, who may have helped him carry out the gruesome act. Despite the truth coming to light, Farhan and Amna continue to stick to their stories and deny any affair. Farhan has shown no remorse and continues to call this an accident. Amna, for her part, stuck by her husband during interviews with journalists. She painted Rais as a small-time thief who preyed on women. But the consequences of this tangled web of lies, betrayal and violence didn't end there. Rais's father, already partially paralyzed, couldn't bear the loss of his youngest son and passed away a few months later. Rais's mother, devastated, mourns her son every day. What makes this tragedy even worse is that Rais was due to be married in a few months to a bride of his own choosing. His mother still keeps his wedding clothes, a haunting reminder of what could have been. It's tempting for a young man to pursue the thrill of having an affair with a married woman, but entanglements like these rarely end well. This case is a devastating example of how such affairs can destroy countless lives. I hope this story serves as a lesson. Choices have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are irreversible. And if you've made it this far into the story and haven't subscribed yet, well, that's just heartbreaking. Don't be that person. Hit that subscribe button and join us for more stories like this.